talking about that we are going to talk about Avengers Infinity War. Yay! Or just Avengers and the Marvel Universe in general. Matt wrote a blog post for our local movie theater. I will leave it linked down below. If you haven't seen Infinity War yet, please do so. There will be spoilers in this video. I think we're already 2 weeks out, right?
Yeah, you should have seen it by now. Like, join the other 98% of humanity and watch this movie.
So we're gonna talk about it, and yeah. So this is 10 years of Marvel.
10 years of Marvel movies. This, a lot of people ask about Spider-Man. Yes, the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies were even older than that, but those are technically under the Sony Creative House. That's not, it's a Marvel movie, but it's not part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the MCU. So it really kicked off with Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man, which is a movie that 100% should not have been. Everything about this movie was like, no, the Marvel was actually going, like, trying to come out of bankruptcy, and they had so many financial issues, and they kind of fought for this movie to get made. And in a weird way, it was kind of an independent film. And so when they put Jon Favreau at the front of it, Jon Favreau fought for Robert Downey Jr., and the rest is history. So we got all of that. We got the post-credit scene. Post-credit scenes are now normal for most all major Hollywood movies. But this was the first time that there was this Easter egg that they didn't tell you about that appeared at the end. And when it ended up being Samuel L. Jackson, and he says the words Avengers Initiative, I don't know about everybody else, I was in the movie theater with a bunch of nerds, and like you could collectively hear people poop their pants. Like, they were that excited. Can I swear on your vlog? I shouldn't swear on your vlog. But
isn't a swear word.
Trust me. Well, that's what I'm saying. I would have said something worse. So everybody was just so insanely excited for this. And they should have been, because look at what you eventually got. You got Captain America, you got Thor. These were all really good movies. And I mean, I'm not saying they're flawless, by no means, but they're really good. They're entertaining, everything like that. And so, how should we approach it? Should we do like character breakdowns, or where the character's at?
Yeah, that was about the next thing I was going to tell you.
Okay.
Talk about. It's like, so Infinity War ended on a kind of sad note. I thought it was a sad note for me. I felt the theater kind of depressed. You know, my favorite characters I know.
It was really quiet. Like, it was, you can hear a pin drop quiet. And I thought it was amazing. It was, it was the Empire Strikes Back of Marvel movies, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's actually pretty cool. You have this point where, up until now, you have had a group of superheroes that always defeat the enemy. And the Marvel villains have not been that great. Like, you have Loki, and Loki was really cool. And there's a couple other ones. I think the otherwise the best one would be Killmonger from Black Panther. And he was great too, because you could kind of sympathize with him. But it still made the fact that, like, it didn't matter which movie that you were watching, other than Loki, every villain died. Like, they just kept showing that. So what is the return? Well, now you have a villain who steps up and not only doesn't die, he wins. Like, he actually accomplishes his goal. He wants to get rid of half the universe. I do want to say this. This is one of my favorite things. He wants to get rid of half of the universe because the resources are finite. My absolute favorite meme that has come out of this is where he says, like, resources are finite and we must cut the population of the universe in half. And then someone just goes, well, why don't you just use the power of the glove to increase the resources? And then it's just a close-up of Thanos looking confused with all the math in front of his face. And that's supposed to be like a reaffirmation that Thanos is the bad guy. Like, you kind of sympathize him, but he is a bad crap, crazy bad guy. So I thought it was great that the villain actually won. Plus, I'm going to say this, we've talked about this before, I kind of sympathize with Thanos, just a little bit. I mean, his whole thing is that he wants to retire. That's it. That's it. Doctor Strange even asks him in the movie, like, what's your end game? And he's like, to watch the sunrise over a grateful universe. And at the end of the movie, that's exactly what he does. He told half of the universe to get off his lawn. He woke up at a ridiculously inconvenient early hour. He watched the sunrise, and he just doesn't have to go to work. His goal was to retire. Yes, I would love, like, oh, if that was your goal, was just to be like, I don't want to work. I just want to sit here and quiet, and everyone's going to shut up, and I'm just going to have some peace and quiet. I'm down with that. Thanos just wants to retire. Thanos has the best 401k plan in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm in for that.
Okay, so the next thing we talked about is Ant-Man and Wasp. Is the next big, huge
next Marvel movie, yes.
Marvel movie in the cinematic thing. So are we predicting that this is before the Infinity War? Because they briefly mentioned Ant-Man.
Yeah, they mentioned that Ant-Man and Hawkeye basically took deals. So you know that Ant-Man and the Wasp is going to take place after they were released from the prisons they were in Captain America Civil War. But we don't know if it's before or after the disappearance. I'm going to go ahead and guess before the disappearance. Otherwise, I think the trailers would have looked very different. That, and I think a great cliffhanger ending for Ant-Man and the Wasp is when someone disappears. And we don't know who. It could be Ant-Man that disappears, which would be intense, because then the next part of getting those people back would be on the Wasp, and the Wasp would have a spotlight shine on her. And that's a great character. Evangeline Lilly's version of the Wasp is a great character. That'd be really cool to see. It could be the Wasp that disappears, and that galvanizes Hank Pym and Ant-Man, because Hank Pym lost his wife, and now if Ant-Man loses the Wasp, that's the second Wasp that would just disappear on the job. So that could be a really good story hook. Or they could go really emotional, gut punch, low blow. Imagine Ant-Man looking at his daughter and she disappears. That would be an intense story moment, right? All of these would make for great plot developments. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that it's before this. I do long answers to your questions.
It's okay.
All right.
So speaking of, next we have Ant-Man and Wasp.
Yep.
Then was it
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, which was previewed in the
final post-credit scene.
Which is that's what they were leading to. If you haven't been following Brie Larson's Instagram or didn't know the logo or anything.
At the final post-credit scene for Infinity War has Nick Fury and Maria Hill both disappearing. That was pretty intense. I didn't think they both would. But what falls out of his hand and drops to the ground, at first it looks like, okay, what is this high-tech piece of machinery? But if you watch it a second time, take a good look at it. It's a beeper. It's like a 90s beeper. And that's going to be the hook. Like, that's the symbol that pops up is the Captain Marvel symbol. So what's going to happen is that the movie, and they've already announced this, is going to take place in the 90s. So we're getting like a 20-year rewind for this. So we'll get to see things like Clark Gregg coming back as Coulson in the MCU proper, not just Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I really hope the next movie introduces the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. characters. I would love that. Anyway, but you get to see Coulson back as an active agent, and I guess you get to see some of his origins with S.H.I.E.L.D., like how he got into it, so that should be really cool. But it's this modified old school technology because that's about the time that she blasts off into space. The character Carol Danvers was originally Miss Marvel, and she has all of these abilities that get amplified. And I don't know how they're going to treat it in the MCU. I don't. But she steps up and becomes Captain Marvel.
Okay, so what else do we have coming down the line? We have Ant-Man and Wasp. We talked about that. We talked about Captain Marvel.
Right.
There's supposed to be another Guardians of the Galaxy.
Actually, we get the next Infinity War, or whatever the next Avengers movie is, Part 4. It goes Ant-Man and Wasp, and then that's later this year. I want to say that's like October, November. I don't know.
But then July, I think.
Really? That soon? Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh my god. Okay.
And
then really early next year, I want to say like, is it March?
I think it's March.
Okay, so
was
March
the original date announced.
is going to be Captain Marvel, and then just a couple months later, in May, that's when we get the next Avengers movie. After that, I have no idea what's officially set, but James Gunn has already gone online and said, hey, I'm writing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And considering how many of them disappeared, I mean, come on, we know they're going to come back. There's going to be more Doctor Strange. There's going to be more Spider-Man. All of that stuff. So, it's not like it. And then Chris Hemsworth posted that video about Avengers becoming like the most profitable movie, like all this record-breaking stuff. And the way he was talking about it made a lot of people go, wait a minute. I think that's him saying that he's going to be playing Thor more. And if he goes beyond Avengers 4 as Thor, yes! Because to go back to Infinity War, and maybe we should do that, go back to Infinity War, Thor was the only character that did anything. I loved everybody in this movie, and everybody had their part in it. But as far as like, who's the badass? It's Thor. Who's great.
Wasn't the Black Widow movie announced too?
Not officially. It still hasn't been announced officially. Everybody wants it, because it would be badass. We'll see.
Okay, last thing we're going to talk about, how closely is this relating to the comics?
Not at all. Not at all. There are a few key scenes that translate directly. Actually, I'm sorry, not even directly, but like very closely. In the comic book, it's not Hulk that arrives on Earth and warns people like Doctor Strange, like, oh my god, Thanos is coming. It's the Silver Surfer that does it. And so there's a scene in the movie when Hulk rides in on the Bifrost or the Rainbow Road or whatever you want to call it, that Heimdall sends him on, and he lands, boom, in the staircase, and he looks up and he's like, Thanos is coming. In the comic, that's Silver Surfer that does that. But it is Doctor Strange that they visit. At that point, it's almost entirely different because the whole part of that happens at the beginning of the comic book. There is absolutely no buildup of like, is Thanos going to get the gems? Is he not? No. Like right at the beginning, he has the glove, he has all of the gems, and he does this. He is instantly all-powerful. And that's kind of the amazing thing that I thought was really nicely done in the movie and in the comic book, is that that's noble that they try to put up a fight, but once he has any of the gems, and then it grows exponentially the more of them he gets, he is unbeatable. Like, it truly is, you are fighting a god. So they really drove home that fact of like, no, it's nice that you're doing all this, it's very noble, but you can't win. So it's kind of intense like that. But.
Okay, if you wanted to read a comic book to kind of predict the next Infinity War Part 2 movie, which one would you recommend them reading?
I would still go back and read the Infinity Gauntlet. That was where the heaviest inspiration from this came from. The other series that really inspired this movie was just a much more modern series called Infinity. You can find those in comic book stores. Infinity Gauntlet's the old school one where it's like, I think the printing that's in now is Thanos standing there like, with the glove and everything, and then there's this like whole wheel of heroes and whatnot behind him. And then in the most recent one, Infinity, it's Jim Chung art. Like the old one is Jim Starlin, the new one is Jim Chung. And it is like a shadowy picture close-up of Thanos' face, and it's pretty badass.
Okay. So that's going to be all for this portion of the video because it's getting kind of long.
That's all. I can talk a lot more.
We're going to do one more.
I can talk a lot more.
Anyways, we will see you guys in the next portion of this video, which will be up soon.
PhD in nerdery.